Hello and welcome to Inward Journey Podcast. My name is Kevin and I'm here with
Janine. We're recording our podcast today on Wurundjeri land, and it's the land of the...
Kulin Nation.
My goodness.
It's the land of the my goodness.
How many times have we practiced this and I still get it wrong?
Shall I stop or shall we keep going?
Let's just keep going.
Okay. So,
I think that our Indigenous people won't mind if I muck that up.
yeah.
Because I'm sure that they will understand sometimes education is tricky for some of us.
Aha. Yeah, okay. I'm sure you're right. And today we decided, after much deliberation, to talk about self-care. What the hell's that?
I don't know. We're going to explore it.
Oh,
We're going to
okay.
talk about it today. So
Right.
welcome, people, and we'll be back to talk with you about self-care.
Okay, I think I'm going to go and have some pie now. See you next time.
Apple, meat pie, apricot. What kind of pie? Mince?
Cherry.
Cherry pie.
Cherry pie.
Rhubarb pie, Kevin.
Yuck. Disgusting.
I shouldn't have said that.
Rhubarb and custard. Right.
You obviously haven't had the rhubarb I have.
Obviously not. Or maybe I just was overdosed on rhubarb as a child.
Rhubarb.
Rhubarb. Isn't that a Monty Python thing?
Oh, it's a whole lot of things.
Oh, okay. Okay. So here we are talking about self-care.
What on earth is self-care?
You would think I'd know a bit about it, given that that's what I've been trying to do for the last 19 plus years.
I think we know a lot about it. I think we do that, Kevin. But I'm going to tell you what it is not, people. It is not going for a massage, or it's not necessarily getting therapies or whatever all
Really?
the time. Well, I don't know. Just the first time I think about when people say self-care, I think they go off in like they've got to do more stuff. They've got to book in appointments for physio or those sorts of things.
Yeah, it's more about paying attention to what's going on with me.
Yeah, that
So-
listening thing, that's really
Yeah,
important.
so what's going on between my ears? Am I connected to the whole of myself?
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not. I'm just a brain walking around. I have no idea what the rest of my body's doing. It could be having a good time down the road. I don't know.
I think connecting to your brain is really important, because I think sometimes if you're not doing that, you might not realise some of the self-talk that's going on. It's
That's
a bit
true.
nasty.
It's true. But it can also be like, it could be a disconnected thing. So being disconnected from the rest of my body is not a good thing. Yeah.
So what is this self-care thing? We're talking about what it's not. What is it? When I think about it, for me, it's about listening to myself. So self-care might be the stopping thing and going, do I really need to do this list of things that I've got in my head or I've got down here in the paper? Do I really need to just have a drink of water, go have a shower? Do I need to eat something? Do I need to spend some time with a friend, going slow, having a chat, having a coffee, that sort of thing?
So do you get like a voice in your head which tells you all sorts of awful things?
Sometimes I can miss that in terms of it can be happening, and when I stop, then I realise it's going, you got to do this, you should do that, why aren't you doing this, Janine? And it's that bully that repeatedly pushes me around.
That's the one, the bully.
Yeah.
So it can be quite extreme for me. Not so much anymore. It used to be.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I got cramp in my leg. And I thought it was going to be like sometimes when I get cramp in my leg, either of my legs, it's all really incredibly painful, but it was just a little cramp and it went. And yeah. So This early into it, I'm already, in fact, very early into it, I'm suddenly realizing that those voices in our heads are quite different.
And you said that we think about self-care quite differently.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, I think messages, no, I didn't mean that. I meant that the don't care messages that we're getting, or the way that you put it, with bullying, is somewhat different from the messages that I've been getting for so long. So I don't know. Is that the difference between my addiction and you being a normal person? But you're not a normal person.
So what is normal?
I stopped that immediately.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Yeah, I'm an addict in recovery. So, when my head still tells me some awful things about myself and about other people.
Yeah.
And about places. Nowhere near as much as it used to be. But I'm listening to you and thinking, wow, wouldn't it be nice to have that instead?
I'm not sure what you heard, but I certainly have had a very critical inner voice or
destructive
self-talk.
Okay. All right,
very
similar.
Cruel in the past.
Yeah.
I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And the privilege that I have as a counsellor is because I'm talking about this stuff often, so I'm often really challenged for myself around what is my self-talk. So I've become really conscious of my self-talk, which is really important, and then I've been able to change it.
Yeah, okay.
That said, I imagine that your inner voice is a lot crueler, harsher. What I find is men can be more vicious and cruel to themselves.
I'm going to be a woman then.
No, we can be quite manipulative to ourselves as well. And
I'll be a dog.
Okay. Some of them don't have great experiences.
Oh.
Some of them are very loved.
Okay, I got it. I'll be God.
Okay.
Whoops. We're not talking about self-care. We're talking about self-destruct.
Oh, you are?
I am, yeah. But that's how it's like the reason I still go. I shouldn't. Yeah, one of the reasons I still go to Narcotics Anonymous is because to learn more and more about that inner voice, or those, as a friend of mine says, what do you mean that inner voice? Those inner voices, and how to be with them. Like, instead of telling them to fuck off and shut up years and years ago, I'm able to, they're nowhere near as loud or as nasty anymore, but I'm able to actually start integrating them into me, the rest of me, and still aware of them. And the other reason I still go to Narcotics Anonymous is because it gave me a life.
So I'd
like to give others that opportunity, like by being there, by helping them when I can. Yeah.
So isn't that self-care?
It is self-care.
Yeah.
So that's one element.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess there's lots of elements to self-care, and I think getting a massage is one of them.
Sometimes I'd wake up in the morning and it was like there was that voice that's inside my head, that bullying voice, be sitting on the end of the bed going, I've been waiting for you to wake up. You're just a useless piece of crap. Why don't you get up, and why haven't you done this, and why? And it's just relentless when it used to be just relentless when it was like that. I had to learn to acknowledge it and soothe myself.
So the soothing feels like it's part of the self-care. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
I also think that it can be that thing that's overrated that people always go to, I've got to do this, or this is what I should be doing, when I think often it's not about that. I often think about it's prioritising yourself if that's what you haven't done. For example, often people will prioritise their children or prioritise their friends or their partners, and they will do things for them. They will sacrifice. They might even do it for their business. It's irrelevant what the thing is or the person is, but it's more about putting everyone else in front of or before them. And when they do that, what they ain't going to end up doing is end up being resentful, end up being exhausted, end up not in a good place. Their mental health suffers in terms of they get anxious, angry, all of those things that we can do to ourselves.
Yeah. Okay.
And the only thing is, if you're not listening to that, you're going to set yourself up. So that's what I think about when I think about self-care.
Yeah.
I guess I always think about as well things like, are you eating well? Are you having enough nourishment? Are you resting? Are you pushing yourself? Those sorts of things, I think they're good questions to ask.
So when I came here today, and I was clearly not okay, really enthusiastic about something, but not quite right.
You weren't yourself.
Cranky. I was cranky. And when I'm like that, I'm not looking after myself. And so, and it has a ripple effect, like it affected you.
Yeah.
And that's my experience with my not looking after myself. When I'm looking after myself, everything's really comfortable.
So that was interesting because when you came in, there was a risk that I would blame myself because something wasn't going right. As we sat down to do this recording, there was something between you and I wasn't going right.
It was your fault.
And the risk is that I would blame me, which I did not. I was tempted, people. I was tempted to go, oh, I'm being demanding, I'm too much, and going to that shameful position, which is not helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't, and I just went, oh, let's keep talking about this. And there was some resistance. You didn't want to.
No, I didn't. I was resistant. That's correct. Yeah. It's like, if I don't learn and keep learning about how to look after myself, then I can't possibly learn to look after anybody else.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think about the importance of that being a parent, and I'm going to sneeze. I can feel it.
Okay, sneeze coming up.
I know we've been having this conversation quite a bit lately, but I think self-care is also about believing in yourself.
Oh, here we go.
What do you mean, here we go?
You would think after 19 years of recovery and being 72 years old, I would believe in myself.
Well,
I've only just discovered that is a wobbly thing for me.
Wobbly, but what I was actually going to say is I've been having some problems with understanding what you're doing on the computer. And particularly today, as we've been doing this, a couple of times you've said to me, it's all right. It's all right. And I've gone, but what are you, and have you done this? And have you done this? And you're going, but it's all right. And what I was actually going to say is you're believing in yourself, and by you keep telling me and you're saying, I've got this, it's a way of your self-care rather than getting wobbly when you don't need to be.
Anything to do with computers, and I'm 100% confident.
No, but Kevin, you're missing the point. Because
it might well be.
It's about computers, but it's not. It's about your relationship with me whilst we're doing that.
So that was okay, what we did?
I think what I'm saying is it was great because you believed in you and you needed to calm me down around some of the things that weren't working on the computer. You've missed you.
No, I'm just processing. Yeah, I get it now. Okay. Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, that's a relationship.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we've got a relationship.
Did you not know that? Well,
yeah, of course I knew that.
Well, we've always had a relationship, but whether it's a good one or not, that depends on us, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah. So, where are we going with that?
Well, I guess I was saying that part of self-care is believing in yourself. And
that's right. That's where you were going with.
Yeah.
You're taking it to believing.
Yeah.
But I don't always believe in me.
I know, but in that moment,
I did.
in these moments today as we've been recording, and then you've been believing in yourself and you were able to calm me. So I guess what
That's
I'm
good.
saying is there's a couple of things that's happening.
Yeah.
So one of
One
things...
of them is that your dog, Asher, won't leave me alone, wagging tail, putting nose underneath
Oops. She's
jumping
just
up
jumped on
and
him.
jumping. Okay, Asher, you're going to have to take a back seat. There you go.
I think someone wants to go out.
Oh, it could be. Do we need to stop again?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, we're back. I just stopped for a bit of self-care.
Which was?
Which my idea of self-care was to go down into the garden, down the stairs into the garden with Asher and run around like crazy with her and then come back up here. And your idea of self-care was talk to Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
And
guess
have an
it's...
apple.
I guess the important thing is stopping and having a break. So sometimes when you're just feeling tired and you need to stop and re-energize, take that moment and find what's the thing that you need to do. So it is around listening. Are you a bit hungry? Do you want to connect with someone? Is something on your mind that you need to deal with? Rather than just avoid it. That avoiding thing can get problematic.
Yeah. And I've just remembered what we were talking about. So here's a question for you.
Go for it.
You believe in you?
I feel like that's a trick question.
No, it's not.
I know. I do.
Oh,
I do.
okay.
Sometimes I get caught out, and then I find later I thought, why do I agree to that? Or what happened then that that person manipulated me into doing or saying this thing, and I don't agree with that, or I don't like that. So I haven't backed myself. So that's...
So I would go, oh, it's not set in cement. I can go back.
Yeah,
And I'll
absolutely.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can believe in myself when everything's going well. Then it gets more difficult when things aren't going so well. And that might not be an external thing. That quite often would be an internal thing. So it would be my view of what's going on, which may or may not be entirely realistic. Like, particularly if I spend time on myself. Yesterday was just so good. I spent the whole day in my apartment and didn't realise until late afternoon, early evening, that I had been really content doing what I'm doing, which was a whole range of things, and it went really well. And I hadn't stepped outside of my apartment all day long.
But you were feeling good.
Yeah. So often, when I didn't isolate. That's not isolating. That was really productive, and I had a really good day. But when I isolate, or when something else goes wrong, then I start telling myself stories about, that voice we talked about. Oh yeah, things will never change. This is just how it is. You just have to accept, and it will get worse and worse and worse. But these days I go, yeah, I hear you. When I do something else, I go out or I talk to somebody, or a combination of things. Yeah.
I ran a self-care day for a group of people that related to a particular hospital. So it was the nurse unit managers as well as personal assistants of some of the people in charge and doctors and specialists, etc. And we were contracted. There was a couple of us, but one of the things that I ran was one of the days on self-care, talking to the employees around assertiveness and self-belief and listening to themselves and all of those sorts of things, and how to communicate well, and all of that is self-care. But part of it is wanting to learn about yourself and wanting to learn to do those things differently. It was fascinating asking these people what they actually thought. Because some of them would say, oh, poor self-esteem. And I'm thinking, that's not what you're thinking. That might be a result,
Yeah.
but what are you actually thinking?
Yeah. You need to get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gets uncomfortable because people don't know, because they haven't listened.
If they don't know or they don't want to say.
I think they don't know. They haven't listened. The end result is I don't speak up for myself, or it gets really uncomfortable, or I'm stressed, buggery, but they actually don't listen to what they're actually thinking.
Oh, okay.
So the thinking goes,
Oh.
oh my goodness, I need to do this, I should do this, I need to care for that person, I haven't done that thing that the manager told me to do.
Yeah.
That person is wanting me. So they start thinking about all these things related to themselves, but they're not actually noticing what they're thinking. So to notice their thinking might go something like,
Yeah.
I can slow down here. Let me get a grip of what's really important. Let me see what's realistic for me to do. All of that is self-care.
Yeah. It's incredibly important for me to actually be able to verbalise what's going on in my head, in my body, and I have to be in a safe place to do that. So like you just said about in a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, not in all of them, in most of them, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel completely at home and safe.
Mm.
So I can say whatever's going on, or not, if I choose not to.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, it is. And I've only just the last year or two realised that it's a really fortunate position to be in. Not many people have that. And you just described, how would you in that work setting stop and talk to somebody else?
I think workplaces are starting to think about employee assistance programs where they send people out to counselling, and they're starting to have options for supervision, which I understand is supervision to be in the way of thinking in terms of counselling and some other disciplines is a place to debrief, to skill up, to reflect on how you're going, and all of those things. And for me, that's often and is all about self-care. Some of our industries don't have those things. So I would hope that people have a place to go, have people that they can go to talk to. You're talking about Narcotics Anonymous, but I think then sometimes it might be a close friend.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. Somebody you can go to unload, to let go, to be your real self and talk about how it's going, and be open where you can and be vulnerable if that's what's required.
Yeah.
That's self-care.
That is self-care. Okay. That's it then. We've done it. That's self-care and all about it. Look at that sunset. Is it a sunset? Yes.
It's getting there. That was a little interlude there, Kevin.
I have a thing about sunrise and sunset. So, as a photographer. A friend of mine who's an artist says, don't keep taking pictures of the sunset and the sunrise. I just love it. Yeah, but we've seen them all. Yeah, no, you haven't. You're not looking properly. Yeah. See, that's self-care.
It is.
That's looking after me.
And looking after your interests. And regardless of the other person's opinion, going,
doesn't matter.
Yeah, this is for me.
That's more than self-care. That's believing in me.
Yeah.
Standing up to her is quite difficult. She's an accomplished and recognised artist and really strong and confident. So when she looks at some of my photographs and goes, it's great photograph, great subject. I think, oh God, here we go. And he said, but the horizon's not straight. So I just tease her and say, yeah, well, if I straightened it up, I'd lose the picture. No, you wouldn't.
Self-care's got everything to do with relationships, hasn't it, Kevin?
It has.
It's got your relationship with yourself.
Which is the most important one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that does mean that depending on who you are, that it might be you need time alone, you need downtime where you just have some space for yourself, or it might mean you might need to connect more with people if that's where you have your wellness.
It can be either.
Yeah, it can be either.
It can actually be both.
Yeah.
So I want to be alone, and yeah, that's enough of that. Now I don't.
I'm very much that person. I can be quite extroverted. When I'm running a group, I'm quite extroverted and expressive, and I'm quite comfortable now after years of learning that skill. But sometimes what I do find, if there's a lot of people around, if we've got people who are visiting and staying in our home, then I really need some downtime.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's where I get my energy, is that downtime.
My trouble is I need downtime from me.
And how do you do that?
That's not happening.
Okay.
That's not going to happen.
Sometimes self-care is really starting to think about who are the people that you're spending the time with. Are they people who are what I call black holes, where you fall into and they don't give you energy, they suck your energy away, and it's not healthy for you to be or to spend a lot of time around them. Sometimes there are people that we're related to, or that we feel like we're obligated to or owe. But even those things are worth thinking about whether they actually are real. Do we need to be connected with that person so much? Are we going to stay obligated for the rest of our lives? Those are good questions to ask. But what I would say, if a person that you're spending some time with, if you're coming away feeling depleted, if you're feeling deflated, any of that sort of stuff, then maybe it's time to think about, do I really need to spend as much time with that person? Can I limit the time? Can I stop spending time with that person? It might even be something else that you're doing that's causing you to be deflated or causing you to feel down.
Like I've just described.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
And it's great because I'm looking around for inspiring people.
Sounds great.
People that inspire me. So if you want to inspire me, please get in touch. No? Fan mail. We've got fan mail.
I've no answer. I got nothing.
Okay. But I've been listening to Richard Branson's story. And
yeah, you did come in with some energy.
I did. And
he's not everyone's cup of tea.
no, that's a good way of putting it. That's what I was looking for. He's not everyone's cup of tea, but, we come from the same country, which doesn't mean a lot. But there's quite a few things in common, not how it ended up. It's when you take all of the stuff off, and he does in his story, when you get down to the core, I sort of feel like what drives him is what drove me before I relapsed. Similar.
So the point is, start to think about your energy, people. Start to think about what gives you energy, what gives you
and what takes it away.
Excitement, and what takes it away.
Yeah, what takes it away. Yeah.
Keep listening to yourself and hopefully keep listening to us.
Yeah, please.
Sometimes patting Asha is my self-care.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. She knows all about self-care. She knows exactly what she wants. All the time. Yeah. Even telling me when she wants to go out and play.
Yeah.
It was so cute. So what would one of your peers say about self-care? From a professional point, what do you think they would say?
I think all the things that we're talking about here, I think some of them would talk about counselling or psychology, going to see somebody. They would talk about all the things that we're talking about here. I feel like that they'd say, take your time, go for a walk, write down something. Sometimes I just think sometimes it's so prescriptive that it doesn't allow people to individually think about themselves. Who are they as a person? What do they need?
You mean it detracts from what's going on?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. So the counsellor or the therapist's job is more allowing whatever's there to come out or encouraging that.
Yeah.
Rather than distracting.
I hope so.
Yeah.
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 I think it's to help people to be more themselves and to be in touch with themselves.
Yeah.
To know their ways of processing and what's the best thing for them. We all don't have to do anything any particular way in any particular one way. There's lots of ways of doing it.
So here we are, we're back again because we were talking and I told Janine about something that I decided to do over the weekend. So
I thought it was rather funny.
It is rather funny, isn't it? I can let myself get distracted with things that are really not good. So I decided, I just moved, I decided that I was going to complain about the movers for so many reasons. I was going to complain about the people who did the cleaning the house. I was going to complain about the real estate agent because she's an arsehole. And I was sitting there on the weekend thinking about it. And if I do all of that, it's just, I'm just doing it. It's just taking me away from the things that I could be doing, probably want to do. And then my next thought was, yeah, and I've got a VCAT coming up. I'm going to take something car to VCAT and get the money back, and they stuffed up doing my transmission 3 times. And then I thought, actually, how about I just don't complain to any of them? So I decided not to. And then after we finished this podcast today, I was telling Janine about it. I was telling you about it.
Yeah.
And I said I was going to bring the VCAT thing to you. And I suddenly thought...
You were actually going to ask me to decide for you.
Yeah, right. But not directly. I was going to do it sneakily. I was going to do, hey, what do you think about this? And I know you would have said, yeah, well, it doesn't really matter what I think about it. What do you think about it? So I skipped all of that, and I had the conversation with you while you were away in Sydney, even though you weren't here. I had the conversation in your absence and did it anyway.
So isn't that interesting that even though I wasn't part of it, we had that conversation together?
Yeah, that's right. We did. Yeah.
Sometimes I think we do know what the other person's going to say.
Yeah.
So it's kind of good to get some of that out of the way, I suppose.
Well, I could have waited and had a discussion with you.
What words of wisdom did I give you, Kevin?
Not so much words of wisdom. Words of, you don't need to do this. It was more like it would have been,
you're being sneaky.
Do you really need to do this? And you're looking for me to give you answers? Yeah, it's like, no, I don't really need to do it.
Yeah.
Well, it might have given me $6,000, and it might, it was going to be arbitrary because VCAT is a legally binding thing. And the company really just going to say, no, we didn't do anything wrong. And I was just going to say, yes, you did. And I don't know what would have happened in that situation.
But I guess what you're saying is the impact on you would have been great.
Yes, it already was.
And that you would have had to carry would have been huge.
Yeah.
And it wasn't worth it.
No, it wasn't worth it. It already had been significant, and it already wasn't worth it. So I decided with all of those things, VCAT and the real estate agent and the cleaner and the mover and whoever else it was, that I just didn't need the aggravation.
That's a good way to care for yourself, don't you think?
It's a very good way for me to care for myself, yes.
I'm pleased to hear your story, Kevin.
So there's And that doesn't mean that I'm being a welcomer. It means I thought about it carefully and I decided what was best for me. Self-care.
I like that you said that, because some people might take it the other way and think, I've got to give up all these things that I'm fighting for. That's not necessarily the case.
Self-care, looking after me. It was the best thing for me.
Yeah, sometimes it means the opposite. It means that you need to fight for yourself.
Yes.
But in this case, what you're actually saying is, I needed to let those things go.
But my inner voice, you can imagine that. Oh, you're going to have a legal battle. You should get in there and you should crucify them and you should do this and you should do that. And then the next day it would be, you don't want to do that. Every time you go near anywhere, something legal, you get into big trouble, which was decades ago, but I didn't need to do any of it.
Yeah, both of those sides of the coin sound pretty tough, though, in your
They're
head.
horrible.
Yeah.
And that eventually I discovered that what I needed to do was what was best for me at this point in time, which is just let it go.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thanks
So
for the
that was it.
story.
You're welcome. That was it. Finished.
Okay,
Right.
cool. Thanks, Kim. Oh, I was thinking about men, and I don't think that they do very well with self-care.
Okay. Good. Tell. Do tell.
Well, help me out. I don't think that men do very well with self-care.
Well-
I often think that they have issues with their heart, with their eating, with their relationships,
With their egos?
with their egos. And they get so offended that someone says anything to the contrary.
Don't.
So I think that they're actually not that good at self-care.
I think in general, I'd agree with that, yeah.
I think so.
But why? I don't know why. Conditioning?
Absolutely. And that idea of being vulnerable. We don't do
You don't do that.
vulnerability.
You don't cry.
You don't
You
cry.
don't talk about your feelings.
Yep.
Feelings, what are they? Yeah.
I think it's way more than crying, though, because crying shows that vulnerability or that softness or that sensitivity. And I think that we've often trained our men not to do any of that stuff, to be tough and competitive, to be the man of the house, to be the boss, all of those things. That's my dog. Oh, dear.
It's okay, keep going. Yeah,
And so we don't allow those sorts of things. And then if men show vulnerability, it's like, well, toughen up, princess. It's that cruel thing that they're doing. Asha seriously wants to play.
I know. She did this earlier. But that's correct.
Yeah.
But, you know, still leaves us in the same place, self-care.
I think that quite a few men actually look to their partners to care for them and to do that tenderness and that softness that they so desire. They often will look to their partner to do that for them on their behalf. And that's a risk. And the risk can come when they start to get anxious/angry, more so angry or frustrated with their partners because they're not cared for the way they want to. And the risk with that is they'll get more frustrated and angry, and that's not going to give them what they want.
So they need to listen to this podcast. All those men out there?
Well, it's a little bit more than that. They probably need to listen to themselves.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
I think the work that I've done in the past in the men's behaviour change programs, in other communication groups, the main thing is listening to yourself, because yourself is the only thing you can change in life, not anybody else.
I get such a buzz out of sitting in a room full of recovering addicts, and we got this big tattooed biker, and he's talking about his feelings, you know, and how he is, and, you know, being incredibly vulnerable. And also, that's so inspiring for me still after all this time. But imagine if you're somebody new in there and you go, oh, look at all these scary bikers and big people, and that guy's got a suit on, and they suddenly just open up like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It models for everyone else that this is what we can do here. And it also says that underneath all of everything that's happening, I am this person. And the main part of humanity is we are vulnerable.
Yep.
We are that.
Yep, it's true. Better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you for listening.
I hope you've gotten a few tips, bits and pieces that you'll take away from today. If not, sometimes it's a little bit like a pie. Some pieces are good, some pieces, I've had too much.
Okay. All right. Okay, I think I'm going to go and have some pie now. See you next time.
Apple, meat pie, apricot. What kind of pie? Mince?
Cherry.
Cherry pie.
Cherry pie.
Rhubarb pie, Kevin.
Yuck. Disgusting.
I shouldn't have said that.
Rhubarb and custard. Right.
You obviously haven't had the rhubarb I have.
Obviously not. Or maybe I just was overdosed on rhubarb as a child.
Rhubarb.
Isn't that a Monty Python thing?
Oh, it's a whole lot of things.
Oh, okay. We're saying goodbye yet?
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yep. Thank you.
Catch you on the flip side.